I saw a live theater performance of The Yellow Wallpaper, starring Osni Vigasa and directed by Kevin Purcell, performed at the Vachel Lindsay Home in Springfield, Illinois. And it was just an amazing performance. And I thought, right then and there, this needs to be made into a film. There were so many emotions, so many dynamics at play here in terms of this character and the story, beautiful story by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. I chose to shoot the Yellow Wallpaper film style because I wanted the viewer to experience the energy, the emotions, the transformation of this character from the perspective of someone in the room, someone who was maybe even a character or figure from the wallpaper that emerged through the wallpaper, as in the story, by taking the camera and moving in a dance, in the stream of consciousness dance with Osni. Now the audience is able to see and feel those emotions as they spontaneously erupt or change or flow from this docile to this one of questioning and fearful to the one of being trapped to then being released and finding freedom and power. And the camera dance with Osni was a beautiful experience for me because as a filmmaker trying to find that energy, Osni working through her emotional monologue here, and then me as a cinematographer being in the zone with her and flowing with her in those moments. And basically the piece was edited as I was shooting it. I chose to paint this movie because I wanted the energy, the color, the look of the movie to be representative of those signs and symbols represented in the original story. So you have this really intense yellow of the wallpaper. The yellow might represent a masculine form, let's say the sun, that really bright intensity that could be overpowering and dominating, as in the case of the narrator's husband. And then you've got the elements, the symbol of the moon, which might be more of a feminine quality, more subtle, cool. And in this story, the character moves from this world of the sun to the moon and back and forth, and lives in both worlds and moves in and out of the worlds. And not only that, but the reality of her real world and then this imaginary world in the wallpaper where she envisions these characters who are trying to break free. So we shot it with just the existing lighting in the room to make it as natural as possible. But the sconces on the wall, I saw the light, again, the metaphor of the sun being overbearing symbol of the husband, of John. And I tried to position the character in relation to the light. So at moments in the film, the light is just really overbearing, and it's almost just, the brilliance is almost overtaking the figure of the character. And I did that on purpose because I thought, this is what she's feeling. I'm looking at her now, and she's feeling totally overwhelmed, totally trapped, confined, and forsaken. And I thought, this light, this one little wall sconce, provided this really intense light through the lens. The Vachel Lindsay home was a perfect setting because it provided that sense of context for the story. So you've got this wallpaper with this feminine form, the feminine figure on the wall, and the yellowness and this pinkness. So you have these two colors. I decided to play with those colors as a theme with a bit of a patina that came from the blue shirt with the stripes. And the only main color in the room, which really isn't revealed to the end, is the bright green, which is the floor, and that's only seen at the very end when the camera angle is very high and it's taking the perspective of John, her husband, and it's actually seeing her grounded on this new color, new shape that's introduced. I chose to record some solo piano music because it had this melancholy appeal and effect, and the synchronicity of the Moonlight Sonata, and relative to the scene where the character is now experiencing this connection to the moon when the lights go out. And I thought it was powerful that you had this solo voice of the piano taking the audience through these moments and transitioning, bringing back to a coherence and then a stability back into this next scene, allowed for transitions that still gave people a chance to digest and make sense of what had just happened. And I hope that you appreciate this beautiful performance by Osni Vigasa. It's an amazing piece of work by a very talented actor, and what she does in this 48 minutes of emotional drama is just spectacular. And I want to thank Osni, I want to thank Kevin Purcell, who directed the original live performance piece. And I'd like to thank Over the Moon Productions, who gave it life, and I'd like to thank the Vachel Lindsay Foundation and the Illinois Historic Preservation Agency, Justin Blandford and Jenny Battles, for their collaboration and their help in making this become a reality.
I would say the most challenging thing about working on the yellow wallpaper, because it was a one-woman show, was just memorizing. It's, I believe, 15 pages long, and I have a very big font, which made it 27 pages long. And it took me a good solid month to memorize it. And I would memorize little chunks at a time. I would go through the first scene and get all that, and then I would go through the first scene and the second scene and get all that, and then the first scene and the second and the third scene, till I was about halfway through. And then I started halfway with the middle scene, a little chunk, a little more, and then finally I pieced the middle scene back with the beginning, and somehow it all came together. Because I don't have another scene partner to work off of, I have to work off of whatever I can. And sometimes it became the wallpaper. The other piece of it was trying to figure out how to make each of those moments interesting when I didn't have another character or another actor to work off of. A great challenge was to find how to use the whole space effectively for every little moment in the play. I think one of the most surprising things that happened when we were working on this production was the first time we performed it when it was dark outside. And we got to the point where the main character, the only character, turns off the lights, and we had never had pitch darkness before when we turned out the lights, because we had always rehearsed it in the afternoon. So I turned out the lights, and I turned around to look at the wall, and the moonlight, there was a full moon that night, and the moonlight shone through the curtains, and the curtains made bars on, I'm getting shivers just talking about it, made bars on the wall, just as she says. I nearly, I nearly dropped my lines and had a heart attack that night.
In every theater piece, there are always multiple elements that need to come together to create an artistic whole. And in this piece, The Yellow Wallpaper, it was certainly the story by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, her amazing journal entries about letting loose this tortured soul, coupled with the Vachel Lindsay home, this incredible restoration of this home originally built in the 1840s that Mary Todd Lincoln's sister owned at one time, and that the great poet Vachel Lindsay grew up in. And it's such a remarkable restoration. And then the third element is the incredible actress Asni Vigasa, and the way she embodies every word, every breath of this marvelous story.